Welcome everybody to our Future of Fashion panel. So we have some really great topics of conversation today around apparel and fashion space and how brands have continued to drive this growth and some of their plans for the future. But before we get started, let's just do kind of a quick round robin on introductions. I'll get started. My name is Meagen Conahan. I'm EVP at Direct Agents. I focus on strategic client relationships with a concentration in e-commerce.
I'm Brittany Lange. I'm our Director of Client Services at Direct Agents, and I work very specifically with Kristin over at Wacoal.
Hi, I'm Kristin DiCunzolo. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and E-commerce for Wacoal America.
I'm Meagen Johnson. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Jade.com. We're a curated marketplace for small business boutiques.
Awesome. Before we get started, just so everybody knows, if you do have any questions throughout this discussion, please feel free to submit them to the Q&A little box at the bottom. And if we have some time, we will try to get to them. So the reason I'm really excited to have you both here today is because you both really embraced change and pivoted extremely quickly. So maybe just to start off, could you just give us a quick update on, how have things been going for you over the last, 3 to 4 months? How have you been faring with COVID and all of the changes that have been happening? Kristin, you want to start?
Sure. So at Wacoal, we immediately started to change. We really looked at 4 very key critical components as we sort of saw the dip post-COVID, or really when the stay-at-home orders were put into place. We understood that when stores were closing, as a direct business, we really needed to get into high conversion mode, really sort of that lower funnel attraction of the customer to have conversion and, quite frankly, make money. The other part was really leaned into community conversation and transparency, which I know they talked about at the earlier session. The other part of it, because of everything that was going on from an online perspective, we really had to dig into everything we were doing from a user experience perspective, and to take advantage of some of the elements that we were doing online already that we had just not necessarily marketed. So Wacoal, we pride ourselves on our fit and the fit experience in store. We've always had virtual fit experts, not something we overly marketed, but we really leaned into that and found that the customer was wanting and willing. They also had the time. That was a big problem with sort of staying at home and having the ability to sort of wait and be patient and to do all of those sort of home tasks that they probably didn't have before because your calendars are so busy.
Awesome. Meagen, what about you? How have you guys been doing?
Yeah, so we're a marketplace, and that presents some opportunities and challenges as well. As COVID hit, a lot of our sellers were impacted by different state regulations. So where a lot of people just had a manufacturing plant or warehouse, we were dealing with sellers all over the country dealing with different things. And so it was key to work with them to make sure that they could keep supply chain going, that they could get products shipped out, and that we could kind of still continue to meet consumer expectation. One of the opportunities that kind of presented up quickly is consumer behavior started to change with this, that there were some necessities that they were looking for, more comfy clothes, kids' activities, things that they could do when all of a sudden they realized they were going to be at home for a while, and working with those sellers to bring forth those products that would meet that demand very quickly, including cloth masks and things like that. We were one of the kind of first online retailers to start promoting cloth masks, and our sellers were key in bringing that to them. So yeah, it was a quite the interesting couple of weeks. I'm sure as others saw that first week it hit, everyone was a little nervous as people kind of decided what they needed to do. And then we quickly saw that change in consumer behavior, and every day was rapidly addressing different categories and different products that they needed and make sure that we could supply them with those.
We really, I think we were talking about this before in the prep call, but both of us were saying that we had to really take a hard look at our paid channels versus our non-paid channels, making sure we were finding efficiencies in both. So paid, obviously, we saw that competitors weren't spending. We saw that people were in different platforms than they were before. So while especially right after, while Google search was downtrending, shall I say, not Google search, but for your product specifically, they were in app, in social. That's where they were looking for new. And so because of that, we need to sort of quickly pivot where we were spending and making sure that we were where the customer is and was living. So that specifically is not only a trend really post-COVID, it's really anything in regards to digital. You need to always be accessible when she's looking for you at any given time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something we've been talking a lot about is that COVID didn't really instigate a lot of these changes so much as it accelerated and pulled things up. So things that we might have roadmapped for 5 years from now, we're now trying to get done in the next 12 to 18 months. And a lot of that, I think, is happening on the back end since now is the time to invest in things like your customer experience online and, personalization and really speaking specifically to your customers. So I'd love to hear from you guys, like a little bit about what you've maybe pulled up in your roadmap and how you're prioritizing it now.
One of the things that we're prioritizing is how we serve up that content. I mean, we're a discovery site with a ton of sellers and a ton of different products in different categories. And so kind of putting together collections on, like comfy clothes, kids activities, things for wellness, things for beauty, so that they could find the things with the mindset of like, I really need this for where I am right now, or this is something that can help me. We were already in the process of reworking through our website on some of that, but that has accelerated that for us to make sure that while we are a discovery-based website, that we still curate in a way that helps them find what they're looking for faster.
I think one of the critical pieces of this whole period has been customer acquisition. They're out there, they're sort of every company's for the taking, and it's been able to access her and making sure that when she gets to your site, she's having that enhanced user experience and that she is a customer that's going to sign up for email, that's going to sign up for loyalty, that's going to sign up and be a part of your community. In tandem with that, we wanted to make sure that the other levers and platforms that we were on, via social or marketplace, etc., that we're speaking to her in a way that she's always connected with us. So that was making sure that it wasn't just about us being a brand name Wacoal. It was about she needed some sort of connectivity back to who we are. So a big element that we put into place was really making our head of design visible and communicating back to the customer, giving those tips. She's home. Our head of design was home. She was in her closet. She did most of the video content very authentically in pajamas, or sweats, because that's what people were wearing and could relate to. It's spring cleaning. Everyone was doing that. Those were the big stories, the comfort stories. So making sure that we were giving them the content that was relatable, but also very much giving a face to our brand. We're not just this corporate entity. We are a living, breathing, and we can communicate with you, and we want to build that sense of community and transparency, quite frankly.
Yeah, one of the other things, and we kind of talked a little bit about it, some of the, user experience changes and product changes that you guys make, but, what were some of the largest like on-site changes that you had to do to cater to that retail shopper, or that change in demand? Like what were the other kind of major products and projects that you were kind of undertaking?
Do you want to go, Meagen?
Oh, sure. Yeah. One of the things that we kind of ran into, obviously with COVID, photo shoots, working on stuff like that became like a big challenge for us. And as Kristin mentioned, that sense of community, we instantly reached out to our influencers and our affiliates and also our users and worked with them on content. Because again, connecting with our community and how they're, using our products at home was really key. And that's something that actually we're going to stick with going forward, because it was so impactful for our consumers to see kind of our products in real life. And then kind of the next level to that is we used that UGC in many of our campaigns through the last few weeks, but now incorporating it more into our website and actually taking that a step further so that this becomes an ongoing thing that we're using and not just like a campaign level activity, but people really enjoyed seeing how, a shirt fit or how they were styling a particular, even styling sweatpants was becoming kind of a fun content thing on TikTok and some of these other things where people were teaching others, and we joined those conversations. And, we want to continue to have that interactivity both in our marketing activities and on our website.
So a couple of things that we've been looking at really closely is what is happening when she's coming to the site, that overall user experience and flow. Obviously, every online brand, the majority of the dollars come from the true product page, but what other enhancements can we give her? So if she is already very familiar with your site, that's a very easy experience. She goes on, she's looking at what she needs, click buy, boom, she's done. The other part of that we're looking at is if she's a new customer. So while bra education, we are a true leader in the intimates industry, and we had it buried in the footer. And so we moved that to the top of the navigation. So it gave her an experience to be educated about who we are, to be able to measure herself at home, because 80% of women don't even know their real size, and also the opportunity to then click with our virtual fit expert. With that, we saw our customer service, our fit expert, and our live chat numbers go up exponentially. They were craving the one-on-one contact with another human that was, I think, quite frankly, outside of their home. And then the other part is they wanted to change their wardrobe. They wanted to make sure that they were educated and had the time. So the other thing that we saw was we created more long-form content, because before, if someone was commuting, they'd breeze through their emails, they'd check it really quickly, they'd sign off. What we were seeing here was that she was digesting all the content. The views weren't just 6-15 seconds. She was looking at videos through completion. She was reading emails all the way to the bottom, and we could really have gone very far. We had frequency in emails that we were exchanging back with the customer as well, which weren't taking away from our acquisition numbers. She wasn't opting out. She wanted to know more. As simple as your shipping might be delayed because of everything that's going on with COVID, with the US Postal Service, et cetera, to also just wanted you guys to know that we believe in the community. We want to give back. It's a true part of who we are as a company. And we've donated all of these undergarments to a variety of nurses at hospitals. And what we found was even the conversion rates on those emails that were just pure communication, not intended for conversion, almost just as well as our product emails that are trying to sell. So what we really just saw was that she was digesting everything that we were giving her. Obviously, as states are starting to open, we're seeing that, the shift back to some shorter form content, but she wants it. She still wants to read. She still wants to be educated. And I think that we're using that to make sure we're optimizing her experience. So it's accelerated for us needing to build out some of that long form content. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that the SEO people on your team that are watching this are laughing and happy to hear all of that.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I was wondering about kind of like photo shoots for you as well. Like Meagen was saying, they were using a lot of like influencers and UGC. Like, were you doing the same thing, or did you have like this robust kind of product image catalog that you didn't have to go out and do additional shoots?
So we definitely have that as well. We don't nearly shoot in frequency as probably Jane.com would need to. But what we did do is we did tap into influencers from an organic and paid perspective, just to be getting that injection for that long form editorial content that we needed. The other is we took advantage of some of the content that we already have. So we shot a little bit further ahead, which gave us sort of the room to be able to have new content coming up. In fact, we held some of the new content just to make sure that we were going through. Fingers crossed that we'll be able to have photo shoots in July.
Yeah. Speaking a little bit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Meagen. I was speaking a little bit about what's coming up. Since it's mid-June, I feel like what we're usually talking about this time of year is back to school and even getting into holiday planning and like fall fashion when it comes to into this industry. What do you guys think, back to school shopping or fall fashion and holiday shopping looks like this year in this new world?
I think the consumers I think there's still going to be an appetite there. Unfortunately, I know that in your last conversation, you asked for predictions. It really is sort of a day-by-day monitoring. It's still unknown right now if kids are going to go back to school in the traditional format that they were so used to before. I think what we're going to see is holiday shopping will go up. People are shopping a ton. I wanted to hear on the last call just in terms of Amazon what's happening, because obviously searches are going up for items that people traditionally did not look at before. It might be more items that you need versus want. But I think that the appetite for consumption is definitely there. We're obviously seeing growth online. I know that Meagen is seeing growth online. The shopper is definitely shopping. It just might be for different items now based off of whatever the new laws and whatever the new normal will be.
Yeah, I echo what Kristin said as well. We actually did a survey with several of our customers just to kind of see where their headspace were. And I thought I'd share this with the group. It was interesting that only 17% of our consumers actually said that they'd be shopping for back to school clothes, while 30% said it's too early for them to tell. And 46% said no, which was a little shocking to us. Like, wait, what? What do you mean you're not going to? So I do think it's a little too early to tell, and we're all taking it kind of day by day, but the disruption of supply chain we're going to feel that impact here into the fall and into the holiday season. And I do think we are going to see sales starting a little bit sooner. I think people, as we kind of get into that fall, again, depending on where we are with COVID or the economy, if they're still feeling conservative, or if they feel like maybe things are just getting back to normal and they feel like parting with, that dollar. But I do think that we're going to see that earlier. One of the things with, as a marketplace and working with our sellers, obviously, is making sure that we're supporting them into planning for the holiday season. Shopping small, especially in this COVID, has been kind of a big thing to help these small businesses get back on track. And we've been really trying to support our sellers doing that, especially as we approach the fall and holiday season. That's evident with the announcement of the Walmart Shopify partnership, I think, that came out this week, right? That Walmart's trying to help some of those small businesses get found, and we too are doing that same thing.
Oh, that's awesome. We have a couple of questions from just the audience. So the first one was, in terms of acquisition channels, how are you finding new channels and strategies beyond just social and search? And Kristin, you kind of touched a little bit on this, where you just really have to be where your customer is, but how are you finding new acquisition strategies, acquisition channels? Like, what's the process that you guys go through?
Sure. I think a big part of this is obviously the lion's share is really obviously going to come from search, but what we're really looking at is segmentation. So making sure that the segments that we're looking at, whether it be lookalikes, whether it be new to audience, new behavior types, is what we're going after. How is she coming to the site? Where did she come from originally? And then also, what are her psychographic touch points and levers? Because they're slightly bit different than they were obviously pre-COVID. So we want to make sure that we're tapping into her and that audience specifically. The other is, where is she coming from, that perhaps there was a store closed that she's coming online now. So we're really looking at specific segments. The other part of that is obviously from an affiliate perspective as well, and tapping into the reach. So part of it is scale, right? You obviously need to be attracting a larger audience to acquire more customers, but to be very strategic on the segment, because you obviously want to make sure there's efficiency there. I don't want to just acquire to acquire and have a high bounce rate. I want to make sure it's a true qualified customer coming to the site, and then making sure that she's signing up for that email, receiving that 10% to be a part, and then making sure that all those trigger emails along the way are so critical to keeping her engaged. So not hitting her up right away in terms of if she's signing up for an email, not hitting her up right away as from a marketing email, but more, this is who we are as Wacoal, this is what matters. Have you been fit? You should be fit if you haven't, to be able to purchase more bras. This is what we do. This is what we stand for from the philanthropic perspective. And when you are building out your lingerie wardrobe, this is what you really need. So building out that trigger path. So part of it is scale. The other part is making sure you have a qualified scale. And then as she's seen seamlessly through that journey to understand who you are as a brand. Because if she's just signing up for your emails, you got to lure her in a little bit. You can't just hit her up right away and say, click to buy.
Yeah, I would echo much of what Kristin said. Just to add to that, from an acquisition strategy, we early on in COVID leaned in on our affiliates and our influencers to work with them, not knowing that a few weeks later Amazon would abandon them. But we, especially because a lot of them are bloggers and moms and things like that, knowing that they were doing that, we actually offered additional incentives for them to keep working with us, because originally we kind of were concerned that maybe they would pull back because the stress of having kids at home and things like that she would be worried about doing that. So we wanted to make sure that they knew we supported them during that time period. And that became a huge acquisition play for us over the last 60 days, because those affiliates felt very supported by us, and it was a great income earner for them, and they were very excited to promote not only the products we had, but also focusing and working with our sellers and help supporting that small business, they were really excited about. So that was a huge part for us.
Yeah, and that was such a great quick pivot that you guys did to take advantage of, like you said, when Amazon kind of went one way, you guys went the other, and you really capitalized on it. We have another question. So with the lockdown, people are less involved in social activities, so people don't need as many outfits, and the fashion trends are changing a little bit. So as apparel and fashion brands, how are you evolving your marketing strategies to this trend of less outfits and maybe some fashion changes? Like, what are you, Meagen, you talked a little bit about like sweatpants and face masks, but what are the other things you guys are doing to really kind of talk to the consumer who maybe isn't buying the same fashion that we would have thought, maybe like the back to school and the cute, summer dresses and all of those different things? Like, how are you pivoting? And Kristin, for your side, like obviously like intimates, and like, are you pivoting to more of that comfort based versus, the traditional like strapless, etc.? I would love to hear how you guys are navigating that.
Sure, I can go first on that one. So one of the things too is outside of just fashion, we do and have seen a lot of rise in other categories like beauty, wellness, men's, even home, where those categories were great subcategories for us, but not as primary. Where during this, we've seen, she's home, she, wants to redecorate her room, and she's looking for that cute decor piece to kind of accent what's happening there. So again, working with our sellers as we saw the demand for those increase, finding the sellers that can meet that demand. As far as fashion and apparel, it has been a strategic remessaging of some of the stuff where we would be trend focused and things like that. It has been very much more of the comfort, like the luxury comfort at home, right? You stuff like tie-dye right now is really big. And so, while tie-dye, you can still be fashionable, it can be the pair of sweatpants or a cute comfy or, maybe your pajamas that you're wearing, things like that. So we were still finding ways to kind of help her feel fashionable, but in a way that was also affordable and, kind of meeting the needs of her being at home. But also, we are starting to go outside. We are starting to do a few things with people. And so it's like, what? Hey, we know that you may want to just meet with some friends. So here's some great kind of casual outfits where you can feel good about yourself, but we're not necessarily, saying that you're going to be like the most trendiest person. And really at the end of the day, that's where a lot of our consumers are, right? They're still shopping in their comfies, right? They're not necessarily getting dressed up. We joke about getting our hair done, right? Because it's like, hey, we're not in a messy bun today. So just trying to meet her kind of where her headspace is. And again, still giving her a little bit of that trend, but we've come off that just a little bit because we found that some of our messaging early on around that, she wasn't looking for, she doesn't really care. And so more right now, it's just about, kind of easing back into kind of the summer months, that's still kind of casual. Hey, we're going to have fun on the beach. Swimwear is finally starting to pick up for us, where normally we would have seen that early on in the season, and people are starting to kind of go back out to those pools. So we're hoping that, maybe a little bit will come back into fall.
From an intimate perspective, whether you're lounging around or out, it's the foundational part of your outfit every day. So I sort of look at it as an essential need for women. Some may disagree. But at the beginning of, obviously, the pandemic, we shifted very quickly to a comfort message. It also helps that we trademark the term "we invented comfort." It's definitely a part of our DNA and a solution offering that we have evergreen within our collection. What we did notice sort of 4 to 6 weeks afterwards with a lot of testing was there was part of it that, yes, she still wanted comfort, but we also have this ultimate lift solution in category, and it was performing about the same. So there was that audience that, yes, comfort, I'm going to stay home in my sports bra, what have you, and that super comfy, stretchy material. But the other part of it was, if you're a certain size within, for an intimates product category, you need that lift and you need that back support, et cetera. So what we saw was that they were trending the same in terms of the testing that we did to understand the audience and what kind of items that she wanted. The other piece was sort of, it becoming tired. She wanted something to look forward to, and she was sort of moved beyond. We wanted to give her solutions coming out of it. So at the beginning, we had the approach was, this is the situation you're in. You're working from home. We want to make sure that we wardrobe you appropriately, but then the other part was coming out of it. So the big joke that we had internally was there were all those memes about, you know, I haven't seen my hairdresser, I have one eyelash sort of hanging, I haven't, you know, my roots are to here, all my nails have chipped off, etc. But we have a bra that provides up to an inch of lift, and the joke was internally, but you can come out of COVID looking like you got a breast lift for $70. So I think that was an opportunity for us to talk to the customer that was looking for a solution, and quite frankly, a little bit of pretty, because she was at home in those sweats all day long and wanting something to look forward to after. I think that as states are opening up and as we're entering different phases, you're seeing that. Obviously for us, from an intimates perspective, shapewear is obviously a challenging category, as well as strapless, because those are very high occasion items. But in terms of some of the other solutions that we offer with back and side smoothing, lift, comfort, and minimizing, I mean, they're still trending for us, especially also from a sport bra category as well. Everyone's working out. You know, I think Meagen, we talked about it, like everyone is streaming some sort of content. People are picking up, you know, all different types of sports. I know a sporting goods store out here was saying how they sold out of all of their sporting equipment right away. They're like, who knew people needed 45-pound weights just because? But they sold out.
Yeah, it took some of our coworkers, I think, 2 months to get 10 pounds weights, just because everything was completely sold out.
Some of us still haven't found them.
Yeah,
That's
we're still using a Tide bottle.
whatever
okay.
works.
Awesome. Ladies, thank you guys so much for the time today. That's about it for this Future of Fashion panel, but please stay tuned for our final session on shaping the future of storytelling, featuring Kristin Fallon, who is the head of content at GE, and Dinesh Boaz, who is the Direct Agents co-founder and creative director. So thank you guys all again for participating. We really appreciate it, and stay tuned for the next session.